Okay, I'd like to call to order the Westerly Public Schools School Building Subcommittee meeting for Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. The time is 6 o'clock. Members present are Ivan Forward, Christine Hamill, Kristen Federico, Dan Lakebrook, Mark McKinnon, Cindy Perchoff, Mike Over, Giuseppe Gencarelli, Dr. Alicia Story, Dr. Mark Arceau, and myself, Justin Hopkins. We also have our council liaison, Phil Overton. Welcome, Phil. And we have all of our consultants that will introduce as we get into their agenda items. Just a programming note, Deb reading from Downs will be a couple minutes late. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. The first item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. We have two meeting minutes for approval. The first from, I believe, our regular meeting of January 24th. The second from our special meeting of January 31st. If they are, you should have received them in the distribution calendar invitation going out. If there are no modifications to these minutes, we'll entertain the motion to approve both of them.
Approved. Someone said approved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Any members of the public wish to address the building subcommittee? Okay, hearing none. We will move on to approval of invoices. In Deb's packet, we do have invoices from DBW, TSKP, and Downs Construction Company. So we'll take these one at a time. The first one is from DBW, invoice number 2318-09 for professional services from February 24th in the amount of $23,396.22. And this is of this packet.
The design for FF&E, were we including the FF&E
in the FF&E comes in a later phase, typically.
Okay.
There's a little bit of work, if I could address that. There was a little bit of work done in order to prepare the overall budget.
Okay.
So we were just doing a little bit of upfront work.
All right. So this is like $10,000.
That's the total fee, yeah.
All right. So this is this is the total fee for that.
So there's more of a placeholder after the 10,000.
Are they trying to build a 10,000 for FF&E?
Yeah, there's 18,000 for FF&E. If you look at the design consulting and the.
Where are you?
This is the DC FF&E, and then SB FF&E.
Yeah, but that's the contract amount. What is currently billing?
And then the current building is
600 for and
$0.
That
makes sense. I was reading about. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, if the committee is satisfied that your questions have been addressed, we'll entertain a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay. Next item. TSKP invoice number 230601-7 for professional services for January 2024 in the amount of $168,705. Now, before we get into further discussion with Ms. Julia before this, we are going to recommend an amended amount, a reduction of $105 for the reimbursable. There was a fee application to the Town of Westerly Planning Board that $100 application fee was waived. So it should not be part of the reimbursement. So I take any questions. Otherwise, this brings them to 80% design development, which frankly is lagging behind where they are in terms of their completeness. So, are there any questions? So to clarify what the motion we would be seeking for is the amended invoice of $168,600. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, we have two invoices from Downs Construction. One is pre-construction services, invoice number 6 dated 10/31 for services from August 31st through October 31st, in the amount of $14,596. Hey, Deb, how's it going? This is pretty much a straight line. Are there any questions about this invoice? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved. Okay, a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next, from Downs, invoice number 5 for DCES, SVES, and SSES through January 2024 in the total amount $30,235. And this again, I believe, is just based on the contract amount. Any questions for Deb on this one? All right. Move to approve. Okay. Your second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. That concludes our invoices. So we can pay the bills. All right. Welcome, Deb, for the record. Deb, moving from Downs joined us. But you're getting around a little bit. Yes.
Just take a lot longer than I anticipated.
Okay, next item on the agenda is owner project manager / architect update.
Absolutely. We'll get right into it here. I'm gonna let Ashley go first with Dunn's Corner. Springbrook. Yes.
Part of my presentation, I'm going to defer till we talk about the roof project under Mark's thing. So this will be pretty quick, just to give you an update. We had a meeting with the IT director on Monday, the 12th, going over some scope of work. And that went very well. We're going to be including some changes in Addenda 4 issued tomorrow that will pick up some of that scope. It's just, they were talking about equipment and wiring and a few other things. So I was very technical, but we're going to get that all worked out. Last Thursday the 15th, we met with the teachers. We had a Zoom call with basically both schools, Dunn's and Springbrook. Went over the construction phasing, told everyone what to expect and how the contractors we think he's going to be using the site. And there was a few questions, which we then had a follow-up meeting with Dr. Garceau and the principals yesterday and resolve those issues. And pretty much we're good to go on the information front there. There'll be the next step on the next slide here for that. I don't know if Deb, you want to bring this up, or the original schedule for bids is due Tuesday, which is the 5th. We've been hearing some rumblings that we want to drum up some more business, drum up some more interest in the bids. So we're recommending extending the bid period to the 15th, which is a couple Fridays from now, in order to drum up more interest and get more bidders looking at this project. So we'll be looking to the committee to make, to tell them that, I don't know if we need an action item from you guys to change the bid date. But we're just letting you guys know if you have any questions on that, bring it up. What this will do is we are going to request a special meeting of this committee on either Monday, the 18th or Tuesday, the 19th of March in order to approve the qualified apparent low bidder. So then we can still meet our school committee meeting on the 20th to get approval. So I wanted to run that by the committee and see if you're able to have a meeting at that one of those 2 days. Otherwise, we'll have to push back to the April 3rd school committee meeting, I believe.
On the 19th, we have a finance meeting, so that wouldn't work.
There's also a planning board meeting, which our projects are at for that meeting.
Yeah, we don't have anything going on. So. Mind you, check where you are on that agenda.
Yeah, so you tell me when to show up.
Okay. I think. I think the 18 could work.
I don't think we need a definitive answer, just something that will, yeah, and then you can send out a revised agenda for or a special meeting.
Yes.
It would just be to go over the bids and approve the apparent low bidder. To stay in line with the timing of the school committee.
This bid is just based on cost, which is not common, so we will be able to people in the scorecard situation.
So I guess I'll ask, do we have critical mass of folks that are available on the 18th at say 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock? If we need to have a quick meeting, we'll make sure this is one thing on the agenda.
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned, the planning board, we're going to be presenting on the 19th. I believe that's a PAR meeting. I'm asking them if they need us to attend. I don't think they do. But if we'll be there, I'll let you know, Justin. With the approval from the school committee on the 20th and this subcommittee on the 18th, then we would be issuing a notice of project award from the town on the 21st. So that's where we're at right now with the bids. We've issued 3 addendums so far. We've included a lot of small fixes and things that we're trying to close all the loopholes and things that we coming up with. We've had a few questions, mainly from electrical, but we've answered those as well. And as I said, there's another addenda for technology going out tomorrow afternoon. So
questions. The drum up support for the project is reflective of the overall volume and pace of construction going on in Rhode Island right now, correct? Yes. Okay. And this is where we start to feel our relative remoteness within the state of Rhode Island for some of our contractor friends that are in the Providence Warwick area, or perhaps on the east end, where they are targeting projects that are perhaps either higher value or closer to their area. The county that I grew up in, Maine, is bigger than the state of Rhode Island. So it's a challenge.
we're also hearing that there's other competing school projects coming out right now, and they're just looking at logistics and timing and staff. Bonding capacity is another thing that a few contractors are looking at.
Are we also tapping into buildings? Right. I think a lot of the villages still have
We do. Not many DCs when you think about it anymore.
Like, and then most of the Pembroke County.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it easy? Easy, really fast.
Yeah, I'd like to say for the record that Deb and Joe have been doing a lot of legwork on it.
You might have a architect that has some good.
There's one contract. I think they've done work in the Westerly. And don't commonly go after this.
Can't do that.
So far,
So we have a couple next steps, and this is where the FF&E is coming in. The first thing we got to start talking about, and I've started to hint at this with the principals and with Mark McKinnon, is move management. This is something we're really going to get into in April through June. It's not something that's really under our scope, but we want to make sure that you guys have a plan in place to handle this. We're going to be engaging the admin and the staff to tell them logistics of how, who's moving where and what rooms we have to empty, what rooms can we move the stuff to the center of the room because they're only painting, things like that. We've talked to the administrators about having a conscious effort by the staff to do cleaning and purging of materials that they're not using. That way there's less to move. We're throwing it out. I think we'll be looking at maintenance to maybe procure a couple extra dumpsters at some point, and so we can start purging as much as possible. The packing itself, how the admin's gonna handle that with the staff, procuring of boxes so that the move takes place. Whether you're gonna use movers or staff from Westerly, that's something that has to be decided. And then where the stuff is gonna be stored. You could probably do Connex boxes at Springbrook without a problem, but Dunn's, because the site is being completely redone, it's going to be interesting before we're going to leave Connex boxes on that site. So there's a lot of discussions that need to happen. Again, that's going to be starting up in April. School. The other thing is FF&E, design and procurement. We want to get going on this in April. We did some preliminary work, which you saw in our billable for February. That was just to get the actual equipment on a list so that we could start getting a budget test the budget number against the what we're holding in the budget right now. We'd like to procure in May so that there is a few things that need to be available in August, mainly the Dunn's Corner Project Lab. Maybe some office furniture, and the rest of it will be in December. So we just want to get in the queue because the summer furniture procurement is always crazy. So we want to get in as early as possible with that. So we'll probably have a presentation in April to go over what kind of furniture we're recommending, whether this committee wants to designate individuals for a subcommittee or have the whole committee to talk about selection criteria. And sometimes there's discussions on chairs and what height the chairs are and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be going into that the next couple meetings. I think that's it. The rest of it is based on the Springbrook roof, which I'll do when Mark presents that stuff a little bit later.
Actually, can I just say, I would recommend as a teacher that stuff that you're talking about, the cleaning and the purging and what's going to where to be done as quickly as we possibly can and not have questions in June, if that's going to be
Oh, no.
major.
No, I'm going to be preparing documents shortly to give to admin that show them exactly where It's based on the floor, finish plans where we're gonna be completely changing the floor versus where we're just painting. Every room is gonna be touched because we're doing sprinklers, but typically they can move, in a room that's not getting a new floor, you can move everything to the center of the room, put a tarp over it, and then they can put walls and all that, so.
And where are we with all of the costumes?
That is been deferred to a later, scope of work.
We're gonna see where all of the construction projects settle. And then it is in the queue for, capital.
There's no law.
Yeah, no, there was, there was a couple questions and we're aware, it's just, the furniture was one of the early things that was reduced in the budget in order to make the project itself. But it's since brought them back. But as a total, what's in the bond is going to be decided when we, when we get the bids. And no, we're definitely aware that the staff want to know.
So what, I know that there is what is the schedule for the addition, some of obviously, in the kitchen, cafeteria is not going to be able to be done in the 10 weeks or.
No, I had that, I can send you that information. We had the phasing information that we shared with principals. The cafeteria will start, we'll start with rebar and concrete and everything. We'll probably have foundations and steel up by the end of the summer, but the idea is that will finish by December. So the cafeteria dorms will still be used in the lower level for the fall semester. Fall of 24, and if we have been talking about whether we send it to strength or not, it's not.
Doing a phenomenal job updating everyone with the things and the questions on it and working in March. Make it easy.
Not our first rodeo. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. I'll be back.
You're moving on to State Street. Can't really, been putting a lot of work into the package. Ready for approval and.
Excuse me, just a question. The events corner school is that.
Yes, actually, done some spring work for both, on the budget.
So tonight, I'm primarily here to walk you through the DD cost estimate and where we stand with the budget at this point. And I know you got our status report in your packet, so I'm just going to hit on a few of those items where we're at. We're still moving at a breakneck speed, so to speak. Over this last month, a lot has happened. You remember about a month ago, we had reviewed those site revisions that RIDE had asked us to review, and we submitted that. We uploaded all the documents to the RIDE portal for their SP review. We just got back some confirmation today on just a couple of other comments that they had. We'll be addressing those in a day. So, which is good because we're going to turn around and ask for our DD review with them. The past month or so, we've had a couple of meetings with our team for the Northeast Collaborative for High Performance Schools. That's a scoring system for making our schools more energy efficient and sustainable. It's a very integrated process with our engineers. We've had a policy review meeting this last week with Dr. Garceau and Audrey and Dr. Thori and Mark to review some of the policy items that we could gain points in. Dr. De Silva with RIDE is, very ardent about his, commitment to having, Rhode Island schools really raise the bar on their energy efficiency and sustainability. So he likes to see us get kind of a high score. So we're looking wherever we can to, get those points, and we'll have some follow-up meetings. I think maybe at one of our next coming SBS meetings, we'll come, with where we stand on that, of the ship scorecard. Maybe review, kind of the energy efficiency and our mechanical system again, just so everybody gets a little, kind of refresher on how that works. The other processes that are in the queue, we had our architectural review board, review meeting on February 1st. We are submitting our, what's called the master plan and preliminary plan documents for planning and zoning. That'll get submitted on Tuesday. We've had an initial security programming meeting, and we'll be having a few more following up with that. We also had a teachers, staff, review meeting on February 15th. I think the State Street teachers were just, glad to hear that we still had a project. I think they thought with all the discussion of the budget shortfall that there wasn't a project. A few things floated to the top that we're going to try to, address. And right now, as you know, we're working within the footprint of the building because that's set. But there are a few things that, we can deal with. Today we had the last of, the first round of our FFE meetings, which we had 6 of those meetings. Right? So we've been having those about one a week. This first round it's not about selecting the furniture, it's making sure that the layout of the furniture works in the rooms, that we understand what the needs are. What it does flush out is things we have to accommodate in the building, where the data drops are, where the electrical plugs are. A few other things took out of those meetings, so those are going well, and we'll start up with the second round soon on those. And I think that brings us up to our next milestones. So tonight we're looking at the budget. As I said, the DD cost estimate will have some DE items for you all to review. And then at the next SBS meeting, we'll have a design update. And then March 19th, no, not March 19th, March 20th, we'll be issuing our 60% construction document set. So that's coming up rather quickly, because that goes in for another round of cost estimating and allows us to start the process with RIDE for reviewing, I guess, the construction documents. So things are kind of all backing up on each other a little bit here. Any questions on the schedule of activities? Not, we'll bring up the slideshow and get into the cost estimate.
One of the things I just wanted to bring up, that some members may not be aware of, and I think that I'll just read that to you. Please be advised that additional energy bonuses are available up to 4% reimbursement for energy efficiency by demonstrating a reduction beyond the minimum school construction threshold, as defined in the Northeast Collaborative for High Performance School Protocol. Page 312 or page 321 PDF breaks down the eligibility guidelines to receive a 2, 3, or 4%. Debts that are available to us, I'm not sure that we would get to a 4% based on what I know of building systems, but even like 2%, additional 2% in reimbursement on top of the 2.5% additional reimbursement that we know that we qualify for, which would bring us to 57%. It's something that I think everybody should be aware of as we move forward.
Yes, our team has discussed this. We're aggressively looking at how much we could achieve with those incentives. So, as I said, maybe at an upcoming meeting, we can report back with where we think we are on that. So if we can bring up Go full screen on that. All right. So you can follow along. I wanted to walk you through this just so you can understand where we're at. What am I doing wrong? Okay. All right, so I'm going to take it in little chunks. I mean, you've got the whole spreadsheet in front of you, but just to walk you through this. So I've got in the first column, it was the schematic design cost estimate with the VE items that we had accepted. So you can see kind of the comparison. The next row is the cost estimate with VE items that we're recommending, but that's up for discussion tonight. And then the variation then between the two. So as you can see, the building cost was like 24.5 million at SD. We came down to 19.7, so a 4.8 million variance there. The site work went down a little bit as well, 847,000. The building demolition went down just a little. What you will see is a fairly large jump in the hazardous waste removal allowance. That was because at SD, we hadn't had the full scope from our consultant on what they expected, or I guess the worst case scenario, which we have to plan for at this point. PCBs may be present in certain materials, and they have to be presumed. And we don't test them at this point. We wait to test them once they're once you've evacuated the school. So the estimate of the materials that might have PCBs contamination, that amount is what jumped that up, that we're kind of conservatively carrying. It's a possibility, but we don't know until we get into it, that they'll test it at the time that they start the demolition and find that there's less PCB contamination, in which case that cost to remove those PCB contaminated materials from the site will go down.
So, just ask one question. So with these two columns, what we're comparing, in column one is the plan that was the one we talked about a week ago and accepted. There's that.
That was
The last meeting.
January 1st.
was it January 1st?
So what do we know, like, have we talked about at all in the meetings, like what the $5 million in cost was?
Those are value engineering that you.
Yeah, probably yes, and as I go through
First
this
column
further,
is the bottom that we approved the list, and the second one, that's what I'm trying to figure out from the first to second.
yes,
It's the same value engineering options. They didn't add any more when we got to.
Then how do we cut $5 million?
I get what you're saying.
We realized, so
so this number does not reflect the VE items. So let's get to we'll go through the next few items, and I think I'll explain it, but
So we haven't talked about it, or is there?
No,
this is
the first column.
this number does not include the VE. The VE is in the next pages. I haven't gotten to them yet
What sense would it be?
because that's the whole column. So
I know.
Okay.
I'll come back. If it's not clear, I'll come back.
well, that's right.
I just want to make sure we understand what
Yes.
the context.
Exactly.
So the very first, the 29,430,000.
Yep.
Number that we arrived at the end of, if you recall, that started at 39.
Yes.
Yes. And at that point, there were a list of things that were targeted for value engineering that allowed us to get to that.
For 29, that we all agreed on the
Yes.
29.
As they continue to work on the documents, that realization of the BD items resulted in a design development number of 24,151.49. There's all of the other things that Julian's showed us in past presentations, et cetera, are reflective of that 24.1 number.
I think it'll become clearer, yeah, as I move through this spreadsheet.
Then-
So,
no.
yeah, go ahead.
It's not a different building, it's a
Good.
different cost.
The question, the concern, if I can articulate it, is that did we chop all kinds of stuff out of the building and the floor plan without asking the building?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the question, it
Right.
sounds like we talked about this number, how do we come into meeting without shop?
Go ahead.
Small amount of value engineering.
So we cut 10 million, about 5 million of it's here. I'll show you the next 5 million that we cut was in
We're still.
indirect costs.
I know.
Can you move that up to the top? So in the indirect costs, we were here at SD and we're here now at DD, and we had cut 4.6 million from here to here. That's getting,
So what did you do to cut those?
so
Just to change
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
estimate with the same project.
These items tend to be a percentage, as you see here, a percentage cost of those direct costs.
But if the general
Because-
liability, you have a, for example, on general liability, it's like a 40% drop in the premium, in the price. There's not a 40% drop in, if it's a 1% of what?
It's 1% of the total of the direct costs plus all of these up to that point.
But we didn't cut all those things. How did we cut the direct percentage for you?
I don't know, I can get out my Excel spreadsheet and show it to you, but when you add this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this, and then put 1% of that, you get this, or you get that.
There are other things that as you continue to go on in the project that become, as you get closer to your bid date, and this is what I'm trying to reinforce to the subcommittee at schematic design, is that the numbers that we were reviewing at schematic design had a lot of contingency numbers, a lot of escalatory numbers that are all below the line, all below the construction.
Right.
So for instance, the design contingency, which is strictly a make-believe number that cost estimators use to say the architects are gonna fill in more stuff that we can't anticipate, and we're gonna put this 10% number on top of everything that we've already priced. This is a personal frustration with me because at SD, we're looking at unit prices often that you know that what the unit price is going to be. So what else are you going to design beyond that unit price? I haven't started arguing with every single topic. But just moving from schematic design to design development resulted in a $1.7 million reduction in the design.
Because we went
I understand
10% to 5%.
all the going down on contingency made perfect sense. But that wasn't factored into what schematic design. We don't take that value engineering number in schematic design. So to me, what this is telling me is that, you know, a lot of these indirect costs that are strictly modifiers on a hard construction process were reduced based on the phase that we're in, but the actual numbers that we will receive in our estimate are stabilized. They're not I think construction costs are stabilizing right now. I can tell you that I just professionally, we just opened a couple of bids on new elementary schools in the $50 million range, and we're approximately 10%. So I think we're no longer seeing a dramatic escalation. Now, there are variations from trade to trade, But I think overall, the sentiment is that we were starting to see markets with dramatic inflation.
And that all makes perfect sense, and I understand the contingencies going down and the escalation being reduced, that all makes perfect sense. It still doesn't make sense that the building cost goes down 5 million with nothing else.
When you're looking at $4.6 million, that are just in imaginary costs.
Right, but that's this one. But that has no bearing on this one,
No, but you revised the DSC.
So, there's a new,
There's new,
new estimate,
there's a new estimate.
that's what this is.
Today,
The old estimate.
right, new estimate.
Is that one? Because it's not the one I get.
Today, know what I'm talking about.
Oh, so there's the old estimate and the new estimate,
Right, the first
Okay.
column,
there we go.
when we accepted them, you hadn't put them into that price yet. That first column, all the value engineering things that we agreed to, they're not in that.
They're not in this,
That was,
they're here.
Yes.
right. But how, can we go back to that first one? Are they there?
No, they're not here.
No, I know, the next one,
Oh, but here,
they are.
so the 10 million is this, so we didn't quite realize the 10 million that we anticipated. So because we've got 5.2 in the direct costs and we got another 4.66 in the indirect costs. So we had a total of 9.94 that we realized. What's that? And
That's what- all right.
now, so this and that we didn't quite realize all the savings that we had anticipated. Realizing.
And that's.
But we're very close.
Yes, that, no, it makes sense now. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. If it wasn't up to anything, we had to do that.
So let me just back up though, just so we can finish. So we can.
I don't need any help wrapping myself.
So, yeah, so you'll see, let me see, what else can I point out? You know, at SD, we had a CM fee of 2%, DD, we have a GC profit, which is also 2%, but it's 2% on a lower total. So it's, you know, that number dropped. You know, you just see incrementally things have dropped. Went from 3% escalation to 2.75. We went from carrying 145,000 a month on general conditions to $100,000 a month on the general conditions.
Save that money because we.
Well, some of these are just kind of again re-looking at the market and what we think projects go to. So back to getting a total construction cost 39.1 million to 29.1 million. Again, it's very close. But we had hoped to have more savings here, right? Because we were like 5 million over. And now we've identified actually the 154 is actually a little bit higher than that, and we'll look at the VE items. But there aren't as many VE items now because we took all of the ones at SD, and there's not much else to squeeze out of the project. So that means we haven't dropped very much in the total cost once we've taken the VE from SV to DV. Right, so yeah, so the owner's soft costs, that's the other thing that does not change. Those are more hard costs. They aren't related on a percentage basis on everything else. The consulting fees that you've already signed contracts with us and other people are what they are. Same with the owner's project manager, the commissioning agents now on board, they've got a set fee. What we did look at then was the FFE, the technology. So both of those we kind of looked at again and said, yes, we can probably go down from 900,000 to 800,000 on the FFE package and get rid of quality, we don't want to reduce quality, we want durable, things, but as Jeanette gets more into it, we might have to say, well, some of the teachers who'd asked for 5 of those bookshelf cubbies might have to do only 3 if we kind of need to pinch pennies there on the 800,000. But we think 800,000 is still a pretty good number, so I'm not gonna.
I can tell you that we are, I have a project that we just went through FFE technology. It's 78,000 square foot elementary school with 484 kids. And the total FFE technology combined was 1.1 million.
Oh.
So I think that I support this.
Yeah, we came down 200 on the technology, so we got a 1.2 together. Yeah. So.
And that person that with every piece of furniture we moved, and every classroom, office, place getting new computer, new phone, new interaction.
And then the only.
Sorry. Okay.
Oh, yeah, another question.
Justin, are you more comfortable with these new numbers than you experienced these before?
Yes, I think ultimately we need to get this thing on the street to be big because I think there's more. The challenge, Counselor, can I call you Phil in this one? Phil, is that we're currently tracking $2.5 million for the budget. We have Duns and Springbrook that are awaiting our bids, and that will tell us a better idea of where we are in the global budget. But I think that when this project goes out to the market, this is just anecdotal, based on what I've seen in these recent bids. I think there's more confidence. I personally think that there's more confidence on big level, big day numbers. And that's why I think we whatever we can do to get comfortable with where we are, put it out on the street, I think would be the benefit.
And Chris, are you comfortable with these numbers as well?
Yeah, I would think it conservative, but looks continuous use these.
Yeah, we're at 1.64 million now.
I asked the 2 engineers.
Oh. So furniture and technology came down, and then obviously the percentage, for the owner's contingency, had a savings, because again, that's based on a percentage. So then the total project cost, between SB and DD, and then finally the total project cost with the VE options, there's not a big difference because we kind of basically forecasted what we thought we were going to do from SD to DD. But what did change was the funding, as well. So, transfer of some monies, to increase, the approved funding, and then as, we talked about some monies that, seem to be a savings on the Duns and Springbrook projects to come over into this project. So the 2.526 million is where we stand. The overage. Where do we get it? Where do we find it? And that's, that's where we're at. I don't know if you want any discussion before I go into the VE items.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
It looks like to me that the shortfall will be made of Mississippi County youth month, coming from the school fund balance. Are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that?
I think what is the question?
It looks like the shortfall in funding would be coming from the Westerly Public Schools fund balance.
Well, that's one avenue. What we have already, for 24 from.
And you're comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that strategy. I don't know that it's going to close that gap entirely, but I have to look at other approaches, including, maybe going further in the fund balance or hopefully some conversations with town council. But the approach, yeah.
And how will you use your fund balance?
Then you could speak to that more.
Right, so the transfer of the 1.8 million, that was from the 22 fund balance, and that was in excess of 5% of the operating budget. And the district does have another surplus for 23, so.
Okay. Thank you. So in summary, I think, I personally, first of all, we're gonna know more, actually not to put too much pressure on it, but we're gonna know more when we get those numbers in that are currently out on the street. And I expect that we are going to be close enough to be comfortable putting the project out on the street to see, to then, as long as we have a strategy to account for this, I think the risk in delaying getting this out to market is greater than what our potential, budget, shortfall is. So the whole, if you're doing your job right, you're not leaving, you're maximizing what your budget is for what you're providing. And so by that very nature, you start out here, as we did in SP, and we're starting to narrow the gap. There are things that are still in the budget, like a $1.2 million design contingency, that at our next estimate is going to continue to be reduced. And we'll have a similar thing, to reduce it. Our escalation number is going to go down. So I feel like we're in a position of getting to our next stage and getting the 60% CD estimate, and then ultimately getting us to a good environment where we can where we will be doing the partner.
I remember you saying that coming in, but this is not abnormal at this point in the game to see a little bit above budget. I don't know how to work that, but in the realm of it. In the realm of it.
If you're telling me, if you're asking me if I sleep better at night, if we were close to the budget, yes, I would, but.
But you still think better than you were before.
Yes.
And did we ever talk about if it's possible, is it legal, to, if we had to, borrow some of the funds to get it done, that could then, from the fund balance, that could then be repaid when we get the reimbursement? Is that not something for us possible?
I don't know if that, I don't think that's in the bottom. Yeah.
We can't do that
So,
unless the town council agrees to it.
definitely not.
Just putting that budget area.
I think you guys have done that, like doing super work. I'm very pleased, it's a great group of minds, and, it's a huge challenge. I really appreciate it.
The reality is that we could be in a dramatically different position than we are in, and as much as we'd all like to be. So right now, we're, within 5% of our overall budget. And would I like that to be with a right on budget? Yeah, I think we all would, but I have a comfort level knowing the way these things work between design development and the CDs, and that, when you're conducting cost estimates, you're conducting what you know to be market numbers. You're not capturing what a hungry bidder or somebody that wants to make sure that they're lining up for the next 15 months of work. You're not getting a competitive number. And so for the last, since COVID, You might have heard that we've been going through some ridiculous, inflation, that has hit the construction industry remarkably hard. So the last 3 years, 3+ years have been a tremendous challenge. And I, for one, am encouraged based on what I've been seeing, in recent years, and really recent months, within the last month, 6 weeks.
However, I've shown this with other town leaders, and or in the middle of other projects, and they are way over budget compared to what you guys have accomplished. So, you really should be proud of yourself.
As long as you're not gonna ask us to manage the staff, sewer,
Well, it's another story.
All right, are we ready for the E items then? Not a lot of them. So we developed a list, there are 11 items here on our potential BE items list. I did just discover this morning a little, calculating error, because I had, on those previous spreadsheets, had only reported the 154,490. Because we had added these other ones kind of late in the game, we actually have $191,000 in BE items. But I'm not sure you want to take the first one. It's reducing the parking area. I think you remember at SV we reduced the parking area, so we'd be taking 11 spaces. I think we had 77, so we only have 66.
That's the final, that we have to have what, how many did we decide that we have to have of the electric, whatever that is, do we have to have?
So those are, we're providing infrastructure for those, but those won't be, we won't actually have the charging stations, so they won't be restricted to the charging stations now. But, yeah. We've got, I think 3 or 4 handicap spaces. So that one maybe is not one you want to take. Number 2, remove the sidewalk to Westminster Street. I do have the site plan if you want to bring it up. There was a sidewalk that went from the west end of the building over to Westminster. That was on our VE list at SV. We didn't show it in the drawing, so it's not a big $10,000. Number 3, reduced to an 8-inch foundation wall in lieu of a 10-inch foundation wall. We can do this easily. That's the wall that's supporting, that's under the ground that's supporting the above grade walls. Number 4, we brought up having ceiling cassettes instead of VRF units in the cafeteria. There really wasn't a change in cost, but we are doing that anyway because of some structure and ceiling height issues in that area. Number 5 is providing what's called MC cable home runs instead of EMT conduit, $35,000.
Jacketed cabling. These are in locations that are above ceiling.
Yeah.
And in lieu of rigid metal conduit. It's
Move on. But anyway, move ribbon.
typically, I have a
Which is great.
typically you wouldn't want to have the conduit, the EMT conduit, in spaces where you're exposing the ceiling, because you want to be able to take it out and not. The flexible conduit still is, correct me if I'm wrong, is still jacketed.
Yes.
But it's just not.
What's the downside? There is none, so then break.
Yeah. Number 6, aluminum feeders to the electrical panels, other than the main service is still home. Okay, small amount. Number 7, you might want to discuss. So we've got a
That's a question on every third application, even the board diary. Yes, people want.
didn't have you on the panel here too, right?
$75, I don't know. Aluminum wiring, leak pretty quickly, and so if there's a small short, aluminum gets fired.
So typically, if you go in, something like that from the street, I don't think you're talking about this. These are the feeders.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's nothing.
But, yeah, we're,
Yeah, for $75.
Yeah. One other thing we can talk about here too, is we can turn some of these into alternates that we carry in cities and gives us the option when we get the bids to take them or not take them, and we see the real price of them.
I was going to suggest 1 and 2, that's just kind of a total, like, paving alternate, just wrap it up in the same.
Yeah,
So
okay. Okay. So number 7, we currently have a 250 kilowatt generator that's going to be, providing backup, emergency lighting. It's, to the fire pump that keeps, fire sprinklers, operational if the power goes down. But we could drop to a 60 kilowatt smaller generator that just goes to those two things, because the 250 also backs up the refrigerator and freezers in the kitchen and a few other things, and probably the main computer and the admin and stuff. So we could go to a smaller generator. And then instead of then we would add basically a docking station for a portable generator that the town could bring in when you have things go down. That would provide that freeze protection for the kitchen and refrigeration backup. The elevator would need a battery backup for elevator recall, since that would not be covered under the 60 kilowatt, the smaller generator. So $32,000. Oh.
Everything that was right there on whether this street is on the hospital. At least that's what my wife said. Oh, we're on the hospital, but we're not gonna lose power.
Yeah, because my brother comes down, we used to leave his house.
I live on West Beach.
So the shorthand for that is any other grid that's not on the hospital grid sucks.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
I mean, that's a bit of a hassle then to bring in a temporary generator.
Right, I mean,
My personal feeling is that if this was more like 6-figure savings, maybe more forward. But having that size of the generator allows us the flexibility of set up, an additional cooling area in the power. So it's not necessarily cooling, but charging area. It's not, big enough.
Yeah, okay. Number 8, it's just, we can't guarantee this, but work with National Grid when they're on board with us to kind of reduce the conduit length by 100 feet, and it's just small. Number 9 is, instead of 3 water heaters, they would have 2 water heaters, again, very small change. Number 10 is use either one booster pump or a duplex booster pump instead of the triplex water heater that we've got now, again, very small. And then the last one was use PVC piping for the underground sanitary and storm lines. This one you probably see very often as well. Above ground, meaning the sanitary lines that are in the building would still be the metal iron pipes, because the PVC pipes above ground, you would hear like the trickling of water when somebody flushed the toilet on the 2nd floor. You hear it below. But underground is fine and typically goes that way. So that one, I think. Yeah.
can we put them in order? Did we do that before? Kind of put them in order of.
Can you take notes? Yeah, sure.
Yep.
So 1 and 2 will carry as alternate.
Oh,
No, I don't know, but
Right.
at least providing it as an alternate
Yeah.
allows us. to
Yeah,
have
exactly.
The
some
option.
flexibility.
What about, I was gonna ask about the, foundation wall.
Three, I think we'll just take it. It's structurally fine.
It is?
Yep.
The 8 and the 10?
Yep. Again, we were being conservative early on. We didn't know what our steel sizes were. We're getting into that now. Or we may have a little bit of savings in steel at this next cost estimate because they were kind of being conservative. We had some big columns and some moment connections that were pressing to have them change to brace frames. I know it's not talking. E2.
It sounds like under three.
So 3 we'll go with, number 4 we're going with, well, right now it doesn't show a cost, but we're doing it for other reasons. Number 5, sounded like you were okay. And number 6,
No. It didn't sound right.
And I don't know what, I don't know if you guys know. that When lost, people comes around, when you wire it.
so we're still having, I guess it's copper wiring to the main service, it's just, aluminum. Okay,
Okay. Towards the bottom.
well. So 7 sounded like not worth it really either. 8, we can try to do it. It's really not an easy item. It's us just working out the design and the length. And if we happen to be shorter, we'll just save a few pennies. But, I guess 9 and 10. I'm not sure about you guys. We would do 11. Okay. So, there were some other VE items. These are still actually some of the same ones that we had at SD, so we left them on here and got them priced, but, actually the first one, number 12, is not really a VE item. We've conversed with your fire chief about this, and it's almost like you have to wait till the building gets built to determine whether it's needed or not. We can't.
So, EPA is bi-directional.
Yes,
Which is, radio frequency and fire, police.
for emergency kind of communication.
So that's the new.
Now,
We have the BDA, whatever that is.
so then I'd ask the fire chief, you know, he could test and we can't test, and then they said they referred us to whoever they work with. If they needed the wall construction, we provided the wall construction, and then they said, well, they can't really tell until we build the building. And then,
There's a possible.
Is it too late, for them not to build it?
not
I don't
sure,
know.
apparently,
A lot of wire.
yeah, there's a lot of water.
You gotta put it in later.
It costs more, it probably costs you twice.
But I didn't know it was just like, rather than getting it out.
So, it's like, number 13 is what's called luxury vinyl tile, which is what we have, and to substitute VCT, which is vinyl composite tile. We would save some money, but then we wouldn't have the same flooring that we have in the other 2 schools. And
No, and we already went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way.
number 14 is reducing the length of the millwork in the classrooms, which we did a little bit from SD to DD, and we've reviewed that now with you. It seems like the storage that we have would be tough.
It would be a bad idea.
Display. Yeah.
I don't think we need to go through these.
Okay.
line by line, But just maybe let's pause for 5 seconds and see if anybody wants. I think we're all comfortable. Right. If anybody wants to revisit any of these, please do it now.
That's it. I do have I don't wanna take up more time because I want to miss some other items, but I did have, updated floor plans that maybe just review that next time or you want more time.
I don't think we put it into the.
Nitty-gritty? Yeah, okay, well, here's the site plan again, well.
Yes, it is. It's our street. It really is though, that's the place for our emergency. That's where we go.
So, if there's anything, let me just point out a few things. I think we've seen this before, but we've got 5 now, bioswales on the site to catch, the water, that's basically running from this corner, that direction. It's kind of the slope of the land. But this helps catch it. It is an ecological feature. But it's just grassy. They're shallow, except for this one's probably the deepest one because it's bigger. So this was the last time you probably saw this, except for the teachers, we did see a more updated version. So I just brought this for reference, the things that have changed. I can go over here. We did need to add a second egress stair, an egress meaning a fire safe stair, fire rated enclosure in the second floor, because we had only had the open stair and the one, so we added a second one that we fit in within the building envelope that we're staying within at this point. And I think in talking with the teachers and whatnot, we flip-flop library and the lab flexible classroom. We kind of reviewed the staff toilets. So we've got 2 on this floor plus 1 in the admin. There's one up on the second floor. Today we went through and looked at custodial spaces. Seems like we have enough space. They're going to send us their equipment. We're going to fit that into the custodial and storage spaces here. We had the admin meetings and went through storage there as well as nurse.
Redundant, right? But really, I'm really representing the kindergarten teachers, the only ones that don't have a collapse. And I think we need to find a way to do it.
So I'm going to meet with Audrey, I think soon, and we'll talk again, revisit kind of how these spaces might be used kind of in the new learning model, because you do have all this breakout rooms. Here and 2 there and 3 more upstairs, and just how that might allow us to do it. But we need to settle that down real fast, because a 60% CD studies in 50. So, and then the second floor then, this is the before. It really hasn't changed much to the after, except for having egress there, there. And we did change a few configurations after reviewing the bathroom layout. We've had kind of an open, like, airport style bathroom, and we had the sinks all together, all kind of outside and front. We do think that would work, so but today we decided not to have doors, but the sinks are in each restroom separately. So little things like that right now we're being fleshed out with some of these furniture needs. And then again, just the views of the building haven't changed. And that's the thing. Okay. Thank you.
So one of the things that you provide is to approve the.
Yes.
Does anybody have any issues with that motion? I represented my comfort level, my relative comfort level with where we are in the budget, and my opinion that I think we need to understand where this is not share that opinion or seek, some, a little bit more clarity into how to just. It's reasonable to make this,
So if we do that right now, we can't make those changes. Promise,
the changes for the,
finding a kindergarten. Yeah, it's still gonna be, it's just submitting, yes, to right. She's in a level, right. They are.
I would get to that.
We know our budget here, and then the one that it's, right. No allowances, so everything is out.
well,
We understand what we're doing. We
Right.
certainly do.
well, we're no different. We're no different. Yeah, that's the, and you guys.
Actually, that's
to
the
report
report
that.
a lot. We have a-
When you're more completely.
Right, right. So we'll have to.
The hiring is way too important.
So everybody understands what they're talking about, and this is.
Mhm.
Polyvinyl
chloride.
Oh,
Polyvinyl chloride.
Oh,
You said that.
Or poly. Hazardous. Hazardous stuff, yes.
Nobody, nobody put that. Yeah, so it's. So the reason why, first of all, it's in this building, it's in all of our buildings. It's a hazardous material that's present in cotton, that the cotton of the specific age, that also can migrate into associated building materials such as brick, et cetera. So if you have a window that was popped in the sixties, that contamination can migrate into the brick. The challenge is that there's nothing that compels you to test it out of the blue. But if you do test it and you know that you have it present, then you are compelled to do certain health and safety. I know that sounds a lot scarier. So we have to assume that things have PCBs in them, because when we load them up in a dumpster, the folks that receive the demolition debris are gonna wanna know what the composition is. So when we test it in the field, you separate it from ordinary demolition, you treat it in a special way, to dispose of. So as Julie had mentioned, it's an unknown until we can actually get into demolition. So that number jumped by 400,000. And we can't take it as a value management, I'm just saying, it's just, we may find out that we have 50% of the PCBs that we thought, but we won't have any way of knowing that until we get there. And it will be at the end of the project. We will have a building and be ready for demolition.
It's just, it has to come out of the indirect cost, right? 5 million.
Yeah, whatever you guys did at SP for RIDE.
Yeah. We might drop FFE and technology even further. Yeah, reduce contingencies.
But what we're looking for is, I think we should approve what has been represented here. Sure. And then leave it to our professionals to report it to us.
Now it's just asking the question.
Dr. De Silva, who used these recruits, knows exactly what we're doing right now, we're making it work. So when he sees this and he says, what do you mean you have 2% on our contingency. He knows it's because we had to balance the budget.
Okay. School. So is there a motion?
No, I'll second it.
That we go and made a motion, Mr. Holker seconded it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a formal approval on the PE items?
No.
So I think that directed, you get directed.
All right, sorry to keep everybody else waiting. Thank you. Oh, here.
I expect them.
And just have one more item. It's for Downs to join the team for Springbrook Elementary School roof replacement. And yes, it's backup, but I just put together an amendment to our contract, amendment number 1. This amendment confirms that the current contract agreement with Johnson Company for new project management service for stage 3 of the construction project for the corner, Springbrook, and stage 3 elementary schools in the amount of $706,640. Also includes a total of 230 hours capital revolving fund projects. By this amendment, 70 hours will be utilized from CRF allocation for the roof replacement project in the elementary school. 65 hours were utilized on the Algeria Field Church project, which leaves a balance of 95 hours for future capital revolving fund projects.
So what do you need?
Staff matrix, just to approve this amendment that we will be working on this for the roof replacement project. We're not spending any money, it's a part of our contract.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Deb on that? Good idea. Okay. Now, I think the motion that we go. Okay. Good. Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Westerly High School and Babcock Hall Phase project. Construction documents on review and vote for submission to RIDE. Sorry to keep you guys waiting. So thank you for hanging.
We enjoy it.
You're not very impatient.
Haven't seen actually in a very long time. So it's good to see you. It has been a little bit.
We have a new face here with colors. This is Patrick. He's a project manager here that's the money in hand on your HVAC project. He's been helping with the most recent effort, which is next stage of the process, getting in the spec submission to RIDE for the CD submission. I mean, this is a small project compared to what you guys were just talking about. So, you know, little changes have been made, and certainly we'll have Scott and Patrick speak to them. So we'll go through that briefly, and then also where we stand in terms of the overall project, in terms of getting a contractor on board, next steps, and where this puts you guys in terms of summer outlook. So I'm gonna flip it over to these guys.
Good evening, everyone. Obviously, we went through pretty exhaustively in the SD phase, what the scope was. We had some takeaways. We came back in December, gave an update in regards to the DD phase. The scopes pretty much stayed the same from what we had in SD. We looked at the additional possible ventilation in this building, and then we progressed the DD phase. So with that, just again, going to the CD phase, like Justin had noted, developing it, getting it to the point where the estimators can put everything together, and then meeting the requirements for the RIDE submission. So right on track. The project originally started with about a 1.2, 1.3 budget. We were asked to boost that up a little bit. So we went to 1.5, 1.6 we were trying to get to design-wise. The DD budget came in right before that meeting and right after the December meeting, and it was right at 1.6. So since then, we've been going in parallel, bid the project, and we got numbers back. 1.25 was the low bid. So as noted earlier, timing's everything. And I think we beat some other area projects that we're trying to get into the summer slammer session. During the interview phase, it was noted that the contractor didn't have backlog for this summer yet. So I think they were really aggressive with their number, went after it hard, which was to our advantage. So looks like we got a good project on our hands and under budget, and we got a little bit of room to play with. We will be working with the contractor to take that. This is an ESSER project or ARPA project, I believe. So we do have that cap. And we're gonna try to utilize that. We had talked in the DD phase about a potential phase 2 within this building to get the classrooms. We're gonna look at that pretty strong, once the contractor gets on board, do some investigative work that we had talked about, and maybe get a jump on that and get ahead and utilize the rest of that federal allocation, if you will, to finish off the project.
So more specifically, so we had planned for about $1.5 million for the GC in the budget, and that bid came in at 1.25. So we essentially have $250,000 of money that is essentially freed up from what we like to refer to as bid savings, which is approximately 16%. And out of that 250,000, probably 200 of that can go toward board costs, and the other 50,000 ish needs to be saved for fees and the soft costs associated. And so what Scott is speaking to here is essentially we can absorb another $200,000 potentially, or up to that amount of cost at this point with the current contract. So that's just an important note. And what Scott is also speaking to is that there's a lot of things that we want to be as effective with this money as possible. And so now that we have a recommendation that we've made and the bid is done, if we get that contractor on board, we can start talking about the most effective way to spend that money, so that y'all get the most equipments, improvements, all that stuff for that 200,000.
And just from a construction schedule standpoint, our initial read when we were here in December, equipment lead times were about 19 weeks, the longest. Since that, it's been about 8 weeks, and that's changed. So we're up to about 30 weeks on one of the pieces. So it looks like the majority of the construction we completed in the summer, and then we might have a hit onto the roof for the last 2 pieces of equipment. But we can get the majority of everything installed, operational, functional, commission, check prior to school coming back into session. It'll just be the 2 auditorium spaces that we may have to do that pick last. And then that's gonna be based on submittals. So as soon as we get that contract signed, contractor's gonna fast track the 2 longest lead items. We'll get that through our house approved and on its way to get into the queue. So, but everything's aligning with getting the required spending done by the end of the year.
That puts you in about, when Scott's saying the pick, so he's talking about placing the units, that's looking at the end of September. So then you're looking at startups, all of the commissioning fees. So you're looking at, really having this project buttoned up, closed out into like November, which puts you in that safe zone of having all your paperwork in place so that you can submit to apply on your ESSER funds for the end of the year.
And for those who are involved in the schools, one of the things that I would like to point out is that this kind of 2-phase approach that we're taking is largely to get all of the work that is done interior to the building completed before teachers are back prepping for school. And then basically that phase 2 with the 1 lead items is just going to be essentially dropping stuff on the roof that will be planned around activities happening at the school. It will be as disruptive as possible.
Well, it's difficult to evaluate that type of spread. It's too.
So,
Double, right?
yeah,
We do, that's a great question, and we had a pretty lengthy conversation with both contractors too, to really understand it. So I know, I'll let Patrick take, answer the
Well,
question.
yeah, either of us can do it. I would say that the largest point that I came to was, that we had one bidder that was hungry and one that wasn't. And at the end of the day, that's what drives your bid savings, right? The folks that want the work, who are ready to do the work, that's what's important. Since then, we've learned that, we are currently their only SummerSlam job. And so that puts us at the front line, even if they pick up a few more, it puts us here first. That's a powerful thing, regarding schedule. So, I think that ultimately at the end of the day, that's kind of what it came down to. Additionally, they're self-performing. So they're an HVAC contractor, they're self-performing some of that work. The other bidder is not a self-performer in regards to the HVAC scope, which is his job. So, I think that both of those things came into play, and are the reason that we were looking at such a large spread. The other thing to keep in mind is that we have approximately $3 billion worth of projects that are about to hit Rhode Island. Right, all of the RIDE Stage 2 funding that's been submitted. You have municipalities all across the state that are about to launch a bunch of projects over the next 5 years, and those all have to be committed to currently before the 30th of June. So 30%, whatever it is. So that said, getting in this early was a very, very good thing. And I don't know that it's going to be true the rest of the summer. So we're glad that we're here and we've got the bid secured.
But we have one more we need to secure.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
There's a lot of hungry contractors out there, I think we're just getting the word out and making them aware. Sometimes, but that's what we're finding, because there's so much and it's the timing. We're just sticking to it. Okay.
So I think from an official capacity, what we need today is the blessing to move forward with the correct plan.
Yep, that's one of the components, and then just giving an update on the project itself too. Just one more thing to add to the cost difference with March Home, they also had a contractor handling the mechanical piece that was MBE, so they carried a higher cost, which then put their overall proposal itself. So that's one thing that we did qualify. ATC did reach out to a couple vendors to get the MBE qualification. So they did not get responses back. So we're sharing that with you as an awareness, because that is something that we have to try and achieve for these projects. So we are still pursuing it a little bit more to see if we can capture another. So don't forget about your MBE.
Yeah, it's challenging with such a yes.
No.
Okay, so you have a draft, a recommended motion here. I guess my only question is, technically, we just go to the school committee. Do we approve this or do we recommend approval?
For the awarding of the time or the GC. So I think we might have to check with Eileen, and certainly whatever the process is, but I thought because the funding had already been approved, that it was, this was kind of more of a formality that we had to go through. We're aware of it. Taking it to the school committee, we can absolutely do it. I don't know if we can save time for you.
And I'll jump in here. My understanding going into this was that the school committee didn't need the approval of this. So the recommended motion that in reference to what I put in here was this room. So if there's, that helps clear up some of the confusion.
Right, we do not need school committee approval since it is a budgeted project.
Okay.
And we're going with the lowest qualified bid.
We've already spent a lot of time tonight.
This was given money though.
So
This was given money. Yeah.
two housekeeping items. One is, was sitting over there that there is a mention of Oakwood Construction Corporation in the third paragraph at the bottom. Please substitute ATC, and I will have that in Mark's inbox tomorrow as a revised version. The other thing to mention is I have sent an email to Mark. If you look at the last page in our bid tabulation, you'll note that we have 0 references for each of them. So we reach out to all references provided from both contractors. And at the time, it was a 2-day span between those meetings. And so during those 2 days, we may not receive any response. So I sent it to Mark, and then on the drive home, I got a call from the facilities manager in Franklin, who they have done before. They have been, so I passed this information on to Mark because it's important. They have been doing work as a service entity in Franklin since 1998. They have been doing projects for Franklin repetitively over the years, and the facilities manager of Franklin speaks very highly of things. So that was encouraging to hear, and it's a good reputation to lead into a project with, because that is obviously something that they want to keep and would like to expand to Westerly, I'm sure. So just a couple of notes there to remedy those. Any questions?
No? So I think there's a draft motion here if somebody would like to make it.
So moved. Westerly Public Schools award general contracted services for the Westerly Public Schools HVAC renovation for high school and Babcock Hall project to automatic controls in Rhode Island. The final amount as reviewed and approved by the Westerly Public.
There's a second. Second. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think, Mark, this is still your line item. I don't know, the US capital project.
We can talk about Springbrook roof. I'll get into some of the other summer capital projects. Roof is heavy, we're moving along quite nicely with it. Had some test cuts done already. Updates on where we are,
Yeah.
schedule wise.
Would you call my presentation? Thank you. So Springbrook roof, I'm putting on a different hat now. It's a different project, same client. As Mark mentioned, we did have test cuts done to determine the thickness of the insulation that's there. They also did a nuclear scan. The name shouldn't scare you that we didn't radiate the building. But the roofing company Garland provided the scan and determined that the roof is well over 90% salvageable. We don't have to change the insulation on the flat portions of the roof at all. That's going to be a significant savings to the budget. So that's going to be a good thing. So as you can see here, I mean, this is the Springbrook roof built in 1995. And you can see the dark areas. You can see a lot of ponding going on. This roof is tired. Mark is well aware of it, the condition of it. The life expectancy of the ballasted EPDM roof and the asphalt shingles is you're beyond it now. So it's time to replace it. The new roof, we're proposing R35. Right now it's R15, so you're going to get better energy savings for the roof. That's required because of New England chips. It was the same thing Julia had mentioned earlier. We have to be 10% better than code. Since we're only doing the roof, this is the only thing we can do to improve it, is add more insulation. The flat roofs, we're proposing the Garland modified bituminous built-up roofing system. This is the same roof that was voted proprietary for Dunn's and Springbrook. It's already on Dunn's completely. This is the district policy, basically. It's what maintenance has been doing with all their roofs. The sloped roofs, we have, we're using standing seam metal roofing. Hold that thought. So we have two votes that we'd like you to take today. One is that we want to do a proposed deduct alternate for 30-year architectural grade asphalt shingles on the sloped roofs. This is for cost control. We just want to make sure that we have the ability to rein in the cost should we have a high budget. The estimate is coming in on Friday, so I will have a much clearer understanding of where we are close to the budget at the end of this week. So that was the first vote, was the shingles. So
Do we need? Do we need a sole source justification, right? For these roofs that, I understand that the district wants. It typically, well, I guess what's Ryan's posture on
If
getting stuff that's.
well, in the last project, it was because Dunn's had it already. That was our justification for it. I've never had them second guess a proprietary vote. It's something that the district decides to do and elects to do it. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm thinking that it's like about this.
No, it's just, the rationale is there, if the district has like one. So if you're spending public money or you're reimbursing projects, you want to make sure that's fair. So usually in the event of, so what's the best way to do that is to have competition at multiple vendors and multiple products that meet the same criteria. Where districts that operate multiple buildings commonly have conventions like proprietary roof system, fire alarm system, elevator repair system. It's not advantageous for the district to have different service contracts or to maintain different types of systems with the campus state. So that justification is there, but typically, I understand that in order for it to be reimbursable, we need to make sure that we have. I would just check with RIDE to make sure that
We can ask them at the CD. We're going to try to have a meeting with RIDE the next couple of weeks. So,
does this limit so is this proprietary system where the contract?
the manufacturer of the roof would be limited to the one.
Yeah.
But the actual contractors, there's several that can do it.
Okay.
So you still get competitive bidding, but they're all buying the same product.
Why are we considering a metal roof?
That was the way the RFP was written. And that's the way we've proceeded, and that's why, but that's also why I'm recommending we have an alternate that we can accept to go with the asphalt shingles. Correct. Correct.
Because we cost of it.
We did at one point.
Yeah.
It was there at one point.
Really expensive. Lots.
Okay. We should do slate.
There's only one person in the state of Rhode Island that can be slate now. Slate roof. Kind of on a project that I did a while back.
It's like the one person who.
The residential slate, yeah, it's different than a commercial slate.
Like the one person that can still maintain that.
Correct. So we have two votes. One is the alternate, and the other one is the proprietary vote for the Garland.
I'll make the first motion for the shingles.
And these are not simple 3-tab shingles like what you're seeing here. It's a lot heavier, multiply architectural grade shingles.
And is that part of the Garland system that
It actually would be, we spec Certainty as the basis of design, but you have GAF or Owens Corning or any of the other ones.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Right. Yeah, I think aligning with what the district wants, we just need to make sure that if we need to issue any letters so that, a year down the road, RIDE says, well, what is it? This is a proprietary system, with the approval for we'll give you the approval for, as it aligns with, what district standard is, but from a ride perspective.
So the approval will be contingent upon RIDE accepting the proprietary vote. That's, as it occurs. Okay.
Make a motion to approve the proprietary system by Garland contingent on rides. Sitting with their original reimbursement.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None?
Okay, thank you. So where are we right now with this project? We just awarded the OPM contract tonight. So now the next step is the DD estimate coming on Friday. And then a RIDE meeting in the next couple of weeks. So we'd like to get them on board, do a submission. We already have the portal up and running. We're looking to have approval to go to bid. We'll have the estimate at that point and the hopefully RIDE approval at that point for the 13th of March. And then we would do a bid period that is actually basically now directly against the end of the other bid. So once we know what the low bidders are on that one, we're going to mention this part. Encourage them to bid that one as well. That will go through the 5th of April. And it's same thing, SBC approval on the 10th, following week, and then school committee award on the 18th of April. That gives us a couple months for procurement. Main construction, which Garland has talked to us about, is feasible for the 2-month duration of the project. They don't see any lead time problems right now. So substantial completion would be August 31st, and then final completion about a month later. So there might be some contractors on the roof during the school day doing detailing and things like that, but it shouldn't be any major stuff during school.
Well, who's on this? Dumpster. We have them give us a new dumpster. That's that's either leaking or it's.
That one right there? Yeah, it's, yeah. That was April, by the way, last. So.
Be pressure washes.
They leave a contract, so they provide a dumpster.
Yeah.
Not like too hard.
Right. They don't want to build in dumpster replacement for their first. Yeah.
And just for transparency, I sent an email to the town administrator to talk to DPW because when Dunn's was renovated, the roof was replaced. The ballast was taken by the town and the team, the rocks and stone on the roof. But since we're doing all this export of soils for all of our projects, he's trying to confirm with DPW if they have room or a desire for it. So hopefully we'll clarify that in the next couple of weeks. So the disposal or truck it to the site for DPW. Well, it's really good river rock. It's not very rounded like rock. That's probably right.
But they look for ways to practice.
Actually, we have mentioned we have a figure out.
Let me see if I'll talk to Garland, see if they have a way of estimating that. It would just be a square footage times the depth, and we can get a yard or tonnage, something like that. So. All right. That's it.
Yeah, Well, this should move down here. So you can drive this. Anything else? All right, next item on the agenda, high school field turf project.
That's the field trip, right?
Leave it on the agenda.
We're all good, no more warranty issues, paper, issues, all set. No. We have the money? We will. We will have money. Yeah. It's that.
I did look through the warranty, information, and graduation that will take place. Did not void any warranty. We did the that stage we can do, but we didn't do any, but we have to use the right kind of chair.
So we don't have to put anything down on it?
There is, maintenance that has to have to graduate.
Where are they going to javelin? When you get this back to javelin? They're on the part. I'm assuming that, but
And Dr. Garrison, you're not getting any more videos?
Not yet.
I know, that's, and all the other ones you've done this morning. So
Yeah.
it's not that.
Yeah, no, but
Thumbs off that.
so I think just to close the loop, I think whatever we just circle back with the town.
Do we actually want to close out that permit? We just didn't think for.
well, if we were going to do work back here, would we do that permit? So,
Or you just start doing it.
Probably,
Yeah.
What are the chances of this, collaborating?
The only issue with leaving it open. is because we thought there's details in this today. So if you were going to do something, most likely it's going to be different. So now you've got to notify them.
oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
and we basically don't.
Indication,
Yeah,
no,
so-
small baby. Yeah. So it's- It doesn't get
I think
exciting.
something's gonna close it, it's all the,
Yeah.
it's done, that's sooner. It's
No, that.
You know, there's no where would be, so Kyle was very helpful. He was excellent. Tom was very
John,
helpful.
it was impressive. And you got problems go well.
It goes right through. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is next up. We talk about special meeting. To get the money.
Where are we on talking with senior center and neighboring communities now that we've, or not communities, but community members now that we, just now that the staff has been.
I think we need, it's a good question. Can we put that on? Well, first of all, can we get CSKP to get something together so that we can go to senior center? In terms of the neighboring communities for the neighbors, in terms of the, in terms of the construction sequencing, like first we step or just
Broader, even just this is what's coming and get them excited when, you know, to see that beautiful, you know, rendition of it and maybe a little bit of the timeline, but
I think that's,
keep them involved. I think we talked about that from the very beginning.
you're correct. I think we need a summary presentation.
online.
There's a few people over there.
Or do a night at the senior center where the neighbors could be there too. And she could just do a quick,
It's definitely that, but
I think it's more.
the construction sequence is gonna be, you know, a big disruption, so
yeah, they just keep them involved.
town has to be involved, the
Yeah.
senior center has to be involved. Have the engineering plans? Have they been submitted? I believe so.
And that was part, if you remember, of their interview. That they were talking about having little community days where people, and they did, they talked about that, so let's, right? So let's hold them to it.
All day. No fun. Yeah, it was a blast. Okay, anything else? We do not have any numbers for public here, for public comment. So, there's nothing else for the sake of humanity. We will entertain the motion to adjourn. Okay, all those in favor, second? Okay, all those in favor.